Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today I'm doing a little project for a viewer that watches my channel, George Boyan, who lives up out in Texas. And he asked me if I'd do him a favor, and I'm a sucker for this kind of stuff sometimes, so I said, yeah, I'd do it. So what he's got is a chisel. I believe he told me this is his grandfather's chisel, and he borrowed it. And evidently, George doesn't know how to properly use a chisel, and he managed to bust the handle on it. He took it back to his grandfather, and his grandfather said, don't bring it back home until it's fixed. So guess who's going to get to fix it? So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to actually be making a new handle for this and doing it correctly. It looks like that this originally had some leather washers on top that are gone and been cut off. So anyway, we're going to basically restore this chisel. While I got it, I'm going to clean it up. It's got a really bad edge on it. It's kind of crooked and lopsided. We'll see if we can get that fixed as well, and hopefully send them back a tool in much better condition. Let me zoom you in here, show you what we got, and we'll get started on this project. So this chisel is made by Fulton. Fulton was they made a fair amount of tools back in the day. I wouldn't say they're super collectible, but they were quality tools and made good users, and that's I think what we're going to do with this one is turn it back into a good user. You can see the handle split up here. If you look, you can tell where they kind of sawed it off or beat it down, but there's like a dowel that comes out of this, and they put some leather washers on that, and that would just kind of help protect that end of that chisel, and those washers are gone, so we're going to redo this whole handle. Now, I'm not sure exactly what wood that is, but I do know that most of these handles were made out of hickory, and that's what we're going to make the new one out of because I happen to have some. So that's what we're going to make it out of. Looks like someone drilled and pinned this. I don't think that would have originally had a pin in it. I've never seen a socket chisel like this that was pinned. But probably what happened was the handle was coming out, and so someone put a pin in there, and it looks like it's actually a broken off reamer. I don't know. Let's drive that out and see what it looks like in there. All right. Just got a punch here. That's a drill bit. It's in there. Or is that a reamer? I'm not sure what that is. I don't know. It's kind of a spiral cut piece. That might be original. I've never seen one pin like that, but that actually does kind of look like a pin. I don't know. We'll put it back in there when we do it. So that should allow that to come out, and we can see what we need to make here. And we're going to go over to the wood lathe here in a minute and do that. And I told you guys I had a piece of hickory. Well, here it is. Yes, this is a piece of firewood, but it's not just any piece of firewood. This is actually a piece that a friend of mine gave me several years ago, and he was cutting firewood, splitting firewood for his wood stove in his house, and happened to notice when he was splitting this piece of hickory, I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but this has got a beautiful curly grain in it. This is basically curly hickory, which is not something you see a whole lot of. I don't know, every now and then you find it. You see it in axe handles and stuff every now and then. It just makes for a pretty piece of wood. And that's the only piece of hickory I got, so that's what we're going to use. And I'm going to go over to the bandsaw and basically cut me a blank out of this, and we'll go over to the wood lathe and make us a new handle. So a couple of minutes over there on the bandsaw, and then I took it to my table saw and basically cut me out a little blank here. And we got some nice curl in there, a little bit of staining from a fungus or whatever. That's cool. There are a few little wormholes in this piece, but I don't think it's going to matter for anything. But I think that'll make a nice piece of wood to turn that handle out of. So let's go over to the wood lathe now and get started with some turning. I'm over here at my lathe now and getting ready to set this up. First thing I want to do is find the center of this block of wood. So I'm just going to draw a line across the corners here. Do it in the other direction as well. And that gives me a place for my center to go in. Now, I could do this, the center on both ends. I've got a chuck on here now, and I think I'm just going to grip this with a chuck. This is a square piece of wood, so that should hold in there real nice. Let's see. All right, I need to get that centered up right on that crosshair that I put in there. Good and tight. And that looks good. And I'll start out with just a gouge and we'll get that piece round. It's been a while since I've done any wood turning, so this will be interesting. I got my chisel handle, the original one. We're going to more or less try to copy this. So tell you what I'm going to do is turn it on. And I'm just going to come in here and kind of lay out some points. And I'm just setting a set of calipers here, a little bit oversized, and I want to take that down. So I'm going to come in here with a Bedan tool. I'm just going to come in here, and we're going to cut a groove down until my calipers fit over. Right there. Next thing I'm going to do is go to this larger diameter here, and again I'm going a little bit oversized. I want to leave some room to finish it up with, and we're going to go right next to that. Okay. Next, I want to make this small diameter here. So again, we will set our calipers just a little bit oversized. Come in on the back side of that line. Okay. Next diameter I want to do is this back end. So again, just a little bit oversized. It's going to be this line here. All right. I've kind of got my diameters in there of my critical areas. All right, now we're going to come in here and start removing this material out of here and just kind of evening things out. So again, we'll start right here. You kind of got a little area here that goes, flares out just a little bit at an angle. I want to just kind of knock that whole area out right there. These little lines that I put in there just kind of help guide me. Okay, kind of see what we got going on. Same thing here, we're going to go from this one to that diameter. So I'm just going to kind of remove some of this material. I'll use a scraper here to smooth that up a little bit. This is just a scraper tool. Put a little bit of a radius in there. With the calipers. I come right to my mark that I had there before. All right, there we go. So I'm gonna just get all this material out of here, kind of get that taper going. Now I'm gonna come in here with a scraper tool that's flat, and we're just gonna kind of get that taper, copy that taper all the way down. Now what I want to do is I made that a little bit oversized. I'm going to come in here now and get these things exactly to the right size. Okay, right there. I'm going to knock this corner off just so that I can get in there a little bit better. All right, that taper should be the same as the original. Up there at the top, I want to have a 1/2-inch dowel just kind of sticking out of the top of this. So again, I'm just going to come in here. I got my caliper set to 1/2 inch. That's where my leather washers are going to fit up on top of. Okay, and we'll come up about in here and do the same thing. I'll just knock that center out here. That's pretty well got it. Now I'm just going to take some sandpaper, sand this thing out. I'm not going to touch this part down here. That was 80 grit. This is 120 grit. $180. Let's go in finer grits here. $220. And then down to some $320. Let's see what she looks like. I think I can live with that. Got a couple of wormholes in there, but no big deal. I think that's a pretty close match. I'll go ahead and just saw this end off down here. As an out. And we'll saw this end off up here. One new chisel handle. Need to put my leather washers on there. We'll do that next. I'm going to check my fit, make sure we got a nice fit in the shank, but I think we're in good shape. So there's our handle, and it fits the socket just perfectly. So that's a positive step forward. What I want to do next, though, is put on work on the leather washers that go on the top. This is just to kind of help with the impact so you're not hitting directly onto the wood. It got a little cushioning effect, but still it transfers everything through that center part. This is pretty standard on chisels. And I've got a piece of leather here. This is actually a piece of scrap leather belting that used to drive machinery. And we're going to start by putting a 1/2-inch hole in there. For the inside hole, I'm just using a little punch here. Use these on leather. You can use them on gaskets. Handy little tool in the shop. There we go. That should fit right up on there, and it does. Okay. Now, for the outside circle, I'm going to sand it to match that profile. So I'm just going to take a pair of scissors, and we're just going to kind of cut that off. And we will, I'll go ahead and kind of rough it to size here. All right, let's see what we got. There's 1, 2, and then I'm going to sand that flush, and then we'll put that on the top. So let me go do that real quick. I just got this stack on top of that. You see it sticking a little proud over on the belt sander. Very good. All right, now we're just going to glue these leather washers in place. So we got some glue on that. Put that one on. Put some more glue on here. Second washer on. and the cap washer. And all these are a little bit oversized. Like I said, we will sand them down flush after this glue dries. And I've just got this over here in a regular, vise. I don't have this clamped down super tight. It's tight enough that it's got the glue kind of squeezed out. It's tight enough that it's good and tight, but not so much that I'm like smashing the wood or anything like that. And I'm just gonna let it sit there, like I said, overnight, and we'll finish this thing up tomorrow. Back over at the belt sander, I put a little piece of blue painter's tape around that handle to hopefully protect it. And I'm just going to kind of sand this flush with the handle. That's the plan. I think I'm happy with that. Got my Tormek sharpening system over here. This has basically a whetstone in it, and it has a jig for holding your tool to get a nice even grind on something. I've got this set to 25 degrees for the bevel angle, and we're just gonna let this machine do its job. It's just gonna take a few minutes to go back and forth on this. And we should have a nicely ground edge on this when we're done. Checking my grind to make sure it's square. It looks like I got a nice square cut on there, and I'm ready to go ahead and start over here honing it. And I've got a little tri-stone here. I've got a nice Norton tri-stone set that I got to get set up, restored back together. But until then, I'm going to be using this little one that has some different stones on here. Now, when sharpening a chisel blade, a plane blade, or whatever, people don't realize it, but really what's real important is that you have a nice surface. And you can see I have got it shined up right down to the point. The back side of this has to be honed, just like the front. And we'll come in here and find that angle. I'm just going to hit it with this coarser stone lightly and do most of my honing on the finer stones, but I want to make sure we got a good starting point. If you're uncomfortable doing this by hand, they make some jigs that'll hold this thing at a specific angle. You can usually feel that angle. You just kind of roll it up on there and you can feel it when it's flat. All right, we're going to go over to a coarser stone here, or a finer stone rather. You can tell that's not cutting as fast, but it's getting a finer grind on there and getting it sharper. Same thing, be sure to do the back. And because that was ground on a round stone, you see I'm kind of hitting the tops and the bottoms. That center's not cutting out, but that's actually fine. That's a hollow ground in there. But it's doing exactly what we want it to do. I'm going to go over to my next stone. This one is really fine. I don't know what the grit is on it. I've had this sharpening stone since I was a kid and used it to sharpen many a knife growing up, and used it in the shop over the years. Yeah, that's shaven. That is good and sharp. I'm happy with that. Put a coat of varnish on this chisel handle. Gonna let that dry for a little while, and I think we'll be ready to put this whole thing together and have it ready to go back to George. All right, we've let this dry pretty good. That varnish really brought that curl out. Looks nice. And go ahead and get this ready to go back together. I'm going to get a mallet and we'll tap that in place, and then we'll put that pin back in there. All right, I got a wooden mallet here, and we're just going to hit this a couple of times to seat it in place. And that handle is in there. Very good. Using a 3/32 drill bit. And we'll take our little pin that came out of here. I'm going to go get a little hammer and we'll tap that in place. All right. And with that, I think we got this chisel all knocked out. New handle. Got the leather washers up on top like it's supposed to. We got the blade cleaned up, squared off, resharpened, razor sharp. It's ready to go back. You know, this will be a nice user chisel, and the handle will be fixed. Well, that's going to be a wrap, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Something a little bit different for my shop. I haven't done a lot of woodworking in recent years, but I have a lot of roots in woodworking, and I really have a strong appreciation for fine hand tools, and it was quite a pleasure getting a chance to work on this, do a little restoration, hand tool restoration here. So anyway, hope you enjoyed that. With that, guys, that's going to be a wrap. As always, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Comments are appreciated, and we'll catch you on the next video.